billions of people continue to live in a state of informational isolation, unaware of the real climate situation on our planet and what humanity is about to face in the near future. In this video, we'll lift the veil on the statistics, showing how anomalies are becoming the new normal and why that misleads the majority of people. Next, we'll review the climate events of the past week. And get your calculator ready, because this time we'll be counting what usually stays behind the scenes. Russia. In mid-August, the village of Katanga in the Taimyr region, one of the northernmost settlements in Russia, experienced abnormally high temperatures exceeding the daily average by 5 to 11 degrees Celsius. On August 18th, a daily record was set as the thermometer reached plus 26.8 degrees Celsius, nearly 13 degrees Celsius above the normal average. These temperature anomalies are not isolated in Siberia. On August 9th, temperatures in Norilsk rose to plus 27.2 degrees Celsius, while on the Novaya Zemlya archipelago, it reached plus 25.4 degrees Celsius. At the Mali Karmakuli station, daily heat records were set for 6 consecutive days. Meanwhile, in southern western Siberia, the situation was the opposite. Temperatures remained almost 5 degrees Celsius below average. For example, in Kemerovo on the same day, the temperature was just plus 17.7 degrees Celsius. Such flipped temperature contrasts are becoming increasingly common and are taking on an abnormal character. India and Pakistan. Since August 14th, monsoon rains have caused devastating floods in the northern and northwestern regions of Pakistan. The greatest damage occurred in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. In Buner district, over 100 millimeters of rain fell within just 1 hour. Powerful mud flows carrying boulders and debris rushed down from the mountains. As a result, more than 10 villages were destroyed, roads were damaged, and cars were swept away. The flooding was so sudden that people had no time to escape from their homes. Local residents admit they have never experienced a disaster like this before. In the village of Kedar Nagar on August 15th, a house was swept away by the flood during preparations for a wedding. Tragically, 28 people lost their lives. More than 3,500 tourists were evacuated, while dozens are still reported missing. Due to destroyed roads, dozens of villages were cut off, and rescuers had to reach some areas on foot. On August 16th, a helicopter delivering humanitarian aid crashed in the disaster zone, killing all 5 people on board. In the region, heavy rains and flooding damaged 780 homes, nearly half of which were completely destroyed. At least 358 people lost their lives, and more than 180 were injured. Heavy rainfall triggered severe flooding in the region of Jammu and Kashmir, which is under India's administrative control. In a remote Himalayan village in Kishtwar district, along the route to the Machail Mata temple, a disaster occurred on August 15th. A powerful torrent suddenly struck and swept away a community kitchen where more than 200 pilgrims were gathered. At least 60 people were killed, and around 80 are reported missing. On August 16th, flash floods hit 2 villages in Kathua district, leaving at least 7 people dead and 5 others injured. Hurricane Erin. Erin became one of the fastest intensifying and most destructive hurricanes in the Atlantic. As of August 15th, it was only a tropical storm, but within just 25 hours, it strengthened into a Category 5 hurricane, with winds nearing 260 kilometers per hour. What was unusual is that it formed in August, whereas such powerful hurricanes typically emerge at the peak of the season, in September. A direct hit on the Caribbean islands was avoided, but on August 16th, the outer bands of the storm brought heavy rain and strong winds to Puerto Rico and the British Virgin Islands. On the island of Tortola, at least 220 millimeters of rainfall was recorded. In Puerto Rico, over 150,000 residents lost power, and local authorities issued warnings about potential flooding and landslides. By the following day, the hurricane was rapidly growing into a massive system. By August 19th, hurricane-force winds extended up to 130 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm-force winds reached up to 370 kilometers. In the U.S., Dare County, North Carolina, where coastal resorts are located along a narrow barrier island chain, declared a state of emergency with mandatory evacuations. Dozens of rescue operations were carried out due to powerful surf and dangerous rip currents. Indonesia. On August 17th, a strong earthquake with a magnitude of 5.8 struck central Sulawesi. The epicenter was located in the Tomini Gulf, approximately 13 kilometers from the city of Poso. The tremors lasted about 15 seconds, causing panic among local residents. Many fled their homes, fearing collapse. Dozens of patients at the public hospital in Poso were evacuated and temporarily housed in tents on the hospital grounds. In 9 villages, at least 66 buildings collapsed, including homes, schools, and offices. Power outages were reported. In the village of Masani, during a morning church service, walls and beams collapsed onto the congregation. 12 people were injured and hospitalized. One woman later died in the hospital. In total, 41 people were injured, with 10 in serious condition. Over the next 24 hours, 57 aftershocks were recorded, with magnitudes up to 4.3, prompting many residents to remain outside and avoid returning to their homes. Mexico. On the night of August 15th, the southern part of Guadalajara in the state of Jalisco was struck by a natural disaster. First, the municipality of Tlajumulco was hit by a severe, short-lived hailstorm that brought the city to a complete standstill in just 15 minutes. The hail was so intense that in some areas its accumulation reached 1 meter, completely covering streets and parked cars. Major roads instantly turned into impassable icy rivers. Dozens of drivers were stranded, unable to continue driving, and many abandoned their damaged vehicles with broken windows and dents. The situation was worsened by heavy rain. In the municipality of Zapopan, water levels on the overpass over Nogales Highway reached 2 meters, causing structural collapses and paralyzing traffic. A landslide occurred on the Tototlan-Zapotlanejo Highway. In residential areas, water flooded homes and piles of hail blocked front doors, trapping residents inside. Local businesses suffered significant losses due to spoiled goods and halted operations, while children spent the time building snowmen. Spain. The forest fire in the municipality of Molesuelas de la Carbaleda became the largest in the country since 1968, when official statistics began. By August 15th, the fire had destroyed 36,500 hectares. The fire damaged vehicles and homes, though the exact numbers are not yet known. Around 7,800 people were evacuated. The flames destroyed power lines, irrigation systems, and agricultural machinery. 11,000 hectares of farmland were burned, including fields, olive groves, and vineyards. The fire blocked traffic in the affected region. 14 roads were closed, and high-speed trains on the Madrid-Galicia route were suspended. The fire in Apagera, in the province of Zamora, effectively turned the town into a ghost town. More than 1,300 people and hundreds of vehicles took part in firefighting efforts. The fire claimed 3 lives. At least 6 others were seriously injured, suffering burns and smoke inhalation. Spain is again experiencing the so-called Rule of 30 during a hot and dry summer. Temperatures exceed 30 degrees Celsius, humidity drops below 30%, and winds blow faster than 30 kilometers per hour. Under these conditions, even small fires quickly escalate into large wildfires. The area burned by fire in Spain is now more than 4 times the average. Typhoon Podul. On August 13th, Typhoon Podul struck the coast of Taiwan in Taitung County, bringing winds exceeding 190 kilometers per hour. The powerful gusts caused an aviation incident. A cargo Boeing flying from Hong Kong to Taipei damaged its fuselage upon landing after hitting the runway. The typhoon brought record rainfall to the island. Over 400 millimeters of rain fell in southern Taiwan within 24 hours, and up to 700 millimeters in the mountainous areas. The rapid rise in water levels led to flooding of agricultural lands, floods, and landslides. At least 7,000 people were evacuated. Schools, businesses, and offices were closed, and around 300,000 homes lost power. Taiwan was effectively isolated temporarily. Over 400 flights were canceled, and dozens of ferry routes suspended. During fishing activities, one man was swept away by waves and is considered missing. Additionally, 143 people were injured. In the early hours of August 14th, Podul, weakened to a strong tropical storm, reached the coast of China's Fujian province and moved further inland. Despite losing strength, it brought heavy rains to the southeastern regions of the country. In Beihai District, Guangxi Province, nearly 300 millimeters of precipitation was recorded. In Guangdong Province, over 106,000 people were evacuated, tourist sites closed, ferry services suspended, and 150 trains were rerouted. Podul's notable feature was its rapid movement over land, reaching speeds of up to 45 kilometers per hour, while the average speed of typhoons is usually around 20 kilometers per hour. Australia. On August 16th, Queensland experienced its strongest onshore earthquake in the region in the past 50 years. The quake measured 5.6 in magnitude and had a focus depth of 10 kilometers. It was felt hundreds of kilometers from the epicenter. The earthquake took residents of Queensland by surprise, as strong tremors are very rare there, and many initially did not realize what was happening. There was no significant damage reported, but small cracks appeared in some buildings. Following the automatic activation of safety sensors, approximately 13,000 properties and 3 hospitals lost power. Queensland Rail temporarily reduced train speeds to inspect the condition of the railway tracks. Portugal. Last week, Portugal faced one of the toughest phases of this year's wildfire season. As of August 19th, there were 70 active fire sites across various regions. Over 3,900 specialists and about 1,300 pieces of equipment were involved in firefighting efforts, with the military also called in to assist. The disaster has already claimed 3 lives. If a person doesn't actively follow natural disasters, they often don't even realize what's happening in neighboring countries, relying only on what they see from their own window. Sure, it might be a little worse than a year ago, or even worse compared to 2 years earlier. However, various sources claim that this is the new normal. Over time, these norms themselves change, and what is happening no longer seems unusual. As a result, people accept it as a natural process and remain calm. Let's take wildfires as an example. Usually, the average annual area burned and number of fires are compared against a 10 to 20-year average. But the problem is that this baseline period isn't fixed. It's updated every year and includes extreme data from recent years. Consequently, the average rises, making the scale of deviations seem smaller. This simple smoothing mechanism masks the growing severity of disasters. For example, in Europe, the average burned area from 2006 to 2015 was about 257,000 hectares. This year, that figure has already exceeded the norm by nearly 4 times. Because extreme recent years are included, the average for 2006 to 2024 has risen to 355,000 hectares. So, when comparing to 2025, the difference shrinks to only 2.9 times. Through basic statistical adjustments, the difference from the norm appears reduced by 100,000 hectares. Formally, this is no direct falsification. All numbers are correct. But since few dig into the details, it looks like it's within the norm. Behind these figures are forests ablaze, dead animals, destroyed homes, and, most tragically, lost human lives. The same happens with data on other natural disasters: floods, extreme temperatures, tornadoes, and earthquakes. These examples show how sharp contrasts in the real picture of climate change are smoothed over. That's why it's crucial to engage with the events personally. Understanding the true situation helps people realize that disasters are spreading across the planet at an alarming speed, and to share this knowledge with others. Honest and truthful information is vital. It helps people maintain sanity.